For decades, the world was told that Nostradamus's final warnings were sealed, forgotten, or too dangerous to reveal. But now, in this very hour, the three final signs he left behind are beginning to unfold, one after another. Cardinal Luis Tagle, a man beloved by many, may now stand at the center of a prophetic fire. In this divine broadcast, the voice of heaven speaks clearly. The hour has come when what was hidden shall be revealed, and what was prophesied shall rise in flesh. This message is not speculation. It is not politics. It is prophecy in motion. The Church stands on the edge of a spiritual crossroads. Do not be deceived by appearances. Watch. Listen. Pray with holy fear. The Lord is calling His remnant. The signs are manifesting. The faithful must choose whom they follow, not by sight, but by truth. This is the voice of warning. This is the hour of decision. This is the time of separation. On the morning after Pope Francis's death, bells tolled over the city of Rome, but not with triumph. They echoed like a dirge, solemn and unshakable. The Vatican walls, built to withstand centuries, felt strangely fragile. Beneath the gilded ceilings and whispered rosaries, something ancient stirred. Cardinals gathered in silence. Their crimson robes glowed like fire under stained glass as they entered the Sistine Chapel. But unknown to most, a parchment had resurfaced, sealed centuries ago in the depths of the Vatican archives. Its wax broken only days prior. It was a copy of a Nostradamus quatrain, one the world had never seen, and it named three signs. The first, the death of the white shepherd whose heart bleeds mercy. The second, the rise of a Roman with darkened eyes, beloved by strangers and scorned by thrones. The third, the silence before the trumpet, when the gates will shudder and the bride will be tested by fire. As the body of Francis was carried into St. Peter's, a strange halo of light crowned the basilica, a shimmer captured by thousands of cameras and yet denied by Vatican spokesmen. But those present knew. They felt it. A veil was parting. And that very night, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, silent for weeks, was seen in deep prayer near the tomb of St. Peter. Witnesses claim his hands trembled. One nun swore she saw a golden tear fall from his eye. Another fainted as a sudden fragrance of myrrh filled the crypt. Was it grief? Or was it revelation? Unknown to most of the world, the name Tagle had already appeared in underground prophecy forums and even encoded within reanalyzed Nostradamus texts using modern AI linguistics. The Roman of good age, as one quatrain put it, a man from the East, walking the path of Peter, carrying not his crown but his burden. And now, the College of Cardinals watches him. The conclave has not yet begun, but already whispers move like wind through a field of wheat. Some say Tagle will unify. Others say he will divide. But all agree. He is the sign. Whether of glory or of judgment, remains the question only heaven can answer. In the outer courtyard of the Vatican, a child collapsed into weeping after seeing Tagle walk past. When asked why she cried, the child simply said, "I saw angels behind him, but one of them had a sword." At the same moment, halfway across the world, an elderly woman in Mexico reportedly spoke in perfect Latin during a prayer vigil, shouting, "Behold the lamb who is not a lamb, and the fisher who will not cast a net but call the fire." She had never studied Latin. The final signs are not waiting, they are upon us. Tagle's name now rests in the hands of the conclave, but it may not be by votes that he rises. According to the resurfaced text of Nostradamus, the second sign would arise by whisper, not by ballot. He shall not seek the crown, but shall be sought by it. He shall sit where fire once fell, and the dove shall rest upon his left. What does this mean? Some say it refers to Pentecost fire. Others believe it speaks of a hidden ceremony in Domus Sanctae Marthae, a ritual of discernment, not of politics, but of divine selection. And witnesses say that in the past days, multiple cardinals, both progressive and traditional, have privately approached Tagle, some in tears, some in fear. One cardinal, anonymous, confessed to Italian media, "I had a dream. I saw him weeping at the foot of the cross, and Christ whispered, 'He shall guide my bride through the night,' though he knows not how. But not all are in agreement. Deep within the Vatican, factions are forming. Some fear that Tagle's vision will change the Church too radically. Others believe he will restore what has been lost. Still, others warn of an even deeper truth, that Tagle's rise may not end with the papacy, but begin a chain reaction long foretold. The second sign, the one that leads to the third. Peter the Roman. Some claim that Nostradamus and Saint Malachy saw the same destiny, that after the rise of the Roman of good age, there would come one final shepherd, a persecuted pope, a spiritual war, and then silence. Already, strange events echo around the globe. Statues of Mary weep in silence in provinces where Tagle once served. A black crucifix was found turned upside down outside a basilica in Spain. In the Philippines, an earthquake shook the earth during a midnight rosary rally. No fault line in sight. And in Rome, birds no longer sing near the Vatican gardens after dusk. The wind carries something else. The people of God feel it, even if they cannot name it. This is not merely a time of mourning, it is a time of awakening. Tagle himself, in a closed-door retreat last week, reportedly fell to his knees in tears, whispering, "If it is me, Lord, not my will but yours, even if it leads to fire." And now, prophecy races with politics. The conclave draws near. The faces of the Church stand in shadows, but one man walks toward the light, knowing that if he is chosen, he may not lead with comfort, but with a cross. He may be crowned not with gold, but with thorns. Because what Nostradamus hinted at, and what heaven now declares, is not a moment of prestige. It is the hour of reckoning. It is the time of fulfillment. It is the season of the third fire. As night falls over Rome, the eternal city does not sleep. The Vatican windows flicker with candlelight, not from ceremony, but from quiet desperation. Behind closed doors, the College of Cardinals prays, debates, and discerns. But the Holy Spirit is not silent. Something is pressing upon the heart of the Church, not political urgency, not earthly crisis, but a divine pressure, as if heaven itself is holding its breath, waiting. They say that just before the fall of an empire, the air grows still. The creatures act strangely, and men, even the godless, feel an unshakable awareness. Something is coming. Now, that feeling has entered the holy walls of St. Peter's. It walks alongside those in red robes. It whispers not just in the ears of shepherds, but in the hearts of the faithful across the world. In a hidden wing of the Apostolic Palace, a certain letter, written long ago by a little-known mystic during the papacy of Pius X, was recently discovered in a crumbling box marked, "Prophecies Unconfirmed." The letter read, "When the Pontiff of Peace returns to dust, the gates shall shudder and the keys be passed to the man of bridges. He will carry both light and sword, and the world will love him. But within the halls of marble, knives will gleam, and the bride shall cry out in labor pains." The man of bridges. Pontifex. The bridge builder. That has always been the Pope's title. But what if just once, it also points to Tagle, whose name in his native tongue means to cut, or to divide? Could it be that God, in his divine irony, is raising a man of unity to divide what is holy from what is profane? The spiritual war inside the Church has reached a threshold. For decades, battles were fought in whispers, in synods, in encyclicals, in footnotes. But no more. Now, spiritual war has taken flesh. The devout sense it. The lukewarm avoid it. But the bride of Christ, holy and radiant, can no longer hide in silence. Her purification has begun. You may not see it in the headlines, but priests are leaving their parishes in tears. Young Catholics are dreaming dreams of fire and visions of a church on its knees, glowing with light even as blood runs down her sides. And in the Vatican, some bishops are meeting secretly in small upper rooms, reading not newspapers, but Daniel, Revelation, Fatima, and yes, even Nostradamus. One passage, never before connected to the present hour, now seems to burn with urgency. The man from the islands will kneel where angels fell. He shall weep, and the ground will crack. His voice shall stir the crows, and the beast shall awaken in fury. The fisher shall bleed, and the bride shall be crowned with lightning. Lightning. Twice in modern memory, lightning struck the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. Once the day Pope Benedict resigned. Once again, unreported, just days after Pope Francis's final breath. A tourist captured it. A flash so bright it shut off surrounding lamps. And in that precise hour, Cardinal Luis Tagle was reportedly alone in Eucharistic adoration. Coincidence? Or call? But heaven does not leave its messages to coincidence. The signs grow louder. Across Europe, Marian apparitions increase. In Poland, a boy spoke during communion in a voice not his own. The man of the East walks. He carries my seal. In Argentina, 3 hosts bled during Mass. The Vatican has remained silent, but the faithful know. And now, rumors grow. A faction within the Vatican, known only as Domus Tenebris, House of Shadows, has been accused of opposing Tagle's rise. They speak of tradition, but some say they hide much darker allegiances. Whispers of secret documents locked away, of a 5th Marian secret, not given at Fatima, but written during John Paul II's reign and sealed beneath the Vatican Library. This document, some say, foretells a time when a man of gentle words and unshakable faith shall enter Peter's throne not by choice, but by divine mandate. And he will speak truths that shatter the unclean alliances festering in the church. Could this be Tagle? The cardinals hesitate. Some fear his rise will awaken old wounds between East and West. Some fear he is too merciful. Others, that he is too holy. Because holiness always terrifies the unrepentant. The same hour Nostradamus's quatrain began circulating online, a fresco in a 12th century chapel in France began weeping water from the eyes of a painted Christ. The last time this occurred, just days before the election of Pope John Paul I, who reigned for only 33 days and died under circumstances never fully explained. Do not be deceived. This is no ordinary election. This is not mere transition. This is divine strategy. Heaven has moved into position. Earth must now respond. Even within the college, some cardinals are said to be having dreams. Terrible, beautiful dreams. One dreamed of a blackened sun hanging over St. Peter's Square. Another heard the voice of a child say, "There are 2 keys. One to bind, one to loose. Only one will choose the right." And in the midst of this, Cardinal Tagle remains, still, silent, humble, but trembling with the weight of prophecy. In Manila, back in his homeland, millions are gathering, not for entertainment, but for prayer. A sea of rosaries, tears, and lifted hands fills the plazas. Grandmothers speak of visions. Children fast without knowing why. Even non-Catholics report dreams of a man in red robes, barefoot on the sea, staring into a great storm. The world may not understand it, but the church is being placed upon the altar. This is not merely an election. This is a passion. The bride is being stripped of her comforts. Her enemies laugh. Her own shepherds are divided, but in her eyes, there is still fire. She remembers who she is, and heaven remembers who he has chosen. Luis Antonio Tagle, the man at the center of it all, a bridge between continents, a vessel shaped by mercy, a threat to corruption, a mirror to Christ. He did not ask for this. He did not campaign. He only knelt, and now all of hell seems to tremble, because prophecy is not polite. It does not wait for consensus. It descends like fire, and fire is coming. The cardinals prepare for conclave, but the heavens are already assembled. Trumpets remain unsounded, but thunder rolls in the unseen. And above it all, the eyes of God burn, piercing through marble and mitre alike. The church is not merely under observation. She is under judgment. In the early hours before the Sistine Chapel opens for deliberation, an anonymous Vatican aide rushes through narrow halls carrying a sealed box, marked in Latin, Sanguis Veritatis, the blood of truth. Whispers say it contains documents once belonging to Pope Pius XIII, and within them, a forbidden line. When the Church begins to speak of mercy more than holiness, and unity more than repentance, look to the man from the ocean's edge. For through him shall come the bitter wine and the final hour of awakening. That, the man from the ocean's edge, has been identified by scholars only now. For decades, it was believed to be a European. But no, he comes from the islands, the ends of the earth, where the Pacific meets the sky. Tagle. Meanwhile, that underground chapel beneath Castel Gandolfo is lit for the first time in 50 years. A private mass, attended by 5 unnamed cardinals, is said to have ended with one word spoken in unison. Parat. Prepare. Prepare. For what? A great collision is drawing near. The bride of Christ stands at a threshold. On one side, the ancient, the sacred, the eternal gospel. On the other, compromise, corruption, and powers not of flesh, but of darkness, disguised in ritual, cloaked in titles, fluent in the language of theology but bereft of truth. And in the middle, the man they did not expect. Tagle walks as a lamb among wolves, but do not be fooled. The Lion of Judah walks beside him, and the forces that oppose him know it. That is why secret meetings increase. That is why nightfall no longer brings rest. To Rome. That is why even the stone cherubs that sit atop the colonnades seem to weep under the moonlight. The church is no longer debating. She is bleeding. And just as the conclave begins, a black envelope is slid under the doors of 6 voting cardinals. No sender, no seal, only a verse, handwritten in trembling ink. If you crown him, the fire will fall. If you deny him, the sword will strike. One cardinal collapses from fear. Another leaves the chapel and does not return. Silence reigns. But heaven is not silent. Reports from Medjugorje, Lourdes and Akita converge in timing. Each vision declares the same thing. The bride is entering her passion. She must be purified through trial. And from among you, one shall lead her through the storm. He shall carry no sword but truth. He shall weep before he roars. They are speaking of Tagle. But now comes the twist. Because on the very night before, the final vote is cast. While Rome slumbers under the weight of prophecy and plotting, a phone rings in a tiny candlelit room in the Philippines. An old priest, blind for 10 years, picks it up. No one had his number. The voice on the other end says only, "Tell Luis." The dream was real, and the third seal is broken. The old priest drops the phone. He begins to cry, not tears of fear, but recognition. Years ago, Cardinal Tagle confided in him a dream he never shared with anyone else, not even the Vatican. In the dream, He stood before St. Peter's tomb. The sky split. The basilica shook. A voice thundered, "3 signs I give you. The shepherd shall fall, the dove shall rise, and the bride shall be clothed in fire." Then he awoke. Until now, he thought it was only a dream. But now, the shepherd has fallen, the dove is rising, and the fire is almost here, and now the world holds its breath. The final vote is cast. The cardinals return, pale and quiet. The smoke begins to rise. Black, then white. The crowd roars, but suddenly stops, because this is no ordinary white smoke. It glows, it shimmers, it pours from the chimney like living mist, wrapping around the dome, curling toward heaven. And then, a voice. Not from the speakers, not from the crowd, but from everywhere. A voice ancient as thunder, holy as light. "Behold my servant, in whom I am well pleased. He shall not lift up his voice, but the nations shall hear him. He shall not break the bruised reed, but the pillars shall fall before him. For he carries my fire, not to destroy, but to purify. And I have set my seal upon his forehead." The crowd falls silent. And then, slowly, the balcony doors open. The man steps forward. He is not smiling. He is not waving. He is weeping. And then something impossible happens. Every crucifix in St. Peter's Square begins to glow, eyes fixed on the balcony, as if the wood itself recognizes the one who stands before it. Cardinal Tagle, now Pope Leo XIV, raises his hand not in benediction, but in prayer. He says nothing, but the sky opens, and above him, written in light, are the words, "The hour has come." At that moment, around the world, bells begin ringing. Not from programming, not from schedule, but as if heaven itself reached down and shook the towers. And across every continent, the faithful fall to their knees. Because they know. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The bride has entered her labor. The church is being born anew, through fire, through truth, through a shepherd chosen by the Lamb. And the final sign? A child born that night in Bethlehem. His first cry timed with the moment of white smoke. His name, Leo. The heavens do not make mistakes. God is not silent, and prophecy has found its voice. Nostradamus saw it. The mystics warned it, and now heaven confirms it. The bride of Christ shall rise, crowned with fire, clothed in glory, and the gates of hell shall not prevail.